welcome, and we are going to start our today's session with the most crucial topic in this module or in this entire course, that is models of consumer behavior. And this models of consumer behavior would be taught in consecutive 4 sessions now onwards. So, to begin with the model this first module of consumer decision making, we will complete micro and macroeconomic models of consumer decision making, and we will also discuss the Nicosia model of consumer decision making. So, we move ahead. Now, why this kind of consumer decision making models are important? Because marketers are often unsure about the variables that may influence the consumer's buying decision making and to what extent they influence. For example, motivation, how much the customer is motivated by an esteem need, or the customer is motivated by his social need, or what is the attitude of the customer for any particular consumption, what is the perception of the customer about any consumption of any particular product or a brand. So, all this and to what extent, which is most important parameter of decision making. So, these kind of things are always remained as a area of research in consumer behavior. It is also necessary for the marketers to understand how these variables correlate or intermingle with each other. These variables may be like internal variables like motivation, attitudes, external like demographic, socio-cultural or geographical variation across the country, observable, that is the marketers driven stimuli, any pricing offer, any sales promotion offer, or anything, any product differentiation, and latent variables like consumers own predisposition. So, even if this what is the meaning of these variables that we understand, their accurate characteristics and the relative strengths are not so obvious. Which is most important for which customer, that is not so clear. For example, for some customers maybe sales promotion offers are very important. Whenever any free gifts or any discounts are announced, they are very interested to buy the product, like which happens in time of Dhanteras. Like a lot of discounts are given on making charges of gold and diamond jewelry. So, that time probably you can see that just because this kind of A is festival stimuli, and second is of course the kind of discounts which actually leads the customers to buy certain products. So, that becomes important at that time, but sometimes it may be very different issue. The motivation may be daughter's wedding. So, for that a person is buying a wedding jewelry. So, there the motivation is totally different. It does not depend on the sales promotion offer. It is actually the time bound program. Marriage is fixed up in a particular time. So, therefore, it does not matter whether the shops are giving discount or not, they will buy it. So, in that case the exclusivity of the jewelry, because that is a lifetime gift you are giving to the daughter. So, that time maybe the exclusivity of the design, the weight of the jewelry, the quality of the jewelry matters more than the sales promotion offers. So, at which condition what matters more, that also has to be understood. Even if given the complex set of behavior of the contemporary consumers, from the marketer's point of view, formulation of a model incorporating all the possible equations and correlations amongst the relevant variables may sound very useful to understand how consumers behave in the marketplace. Now, this understanding will actually help them to design appropriate strategies and operate in the market accordingly. So, therefore, we are talking about a consumer decision making model. This is a model where a model is usually interpreted as a simplified or realistic version of the actual actions performed by the consumers in their own mind and its reflection in the marketplace. Since consumer behavior has been defined as a blueprint of the decision process, the models that focus on the process will be of substantial interest to us. Now, while modeling the behavior, we have two things. A is the traditional models and B is the contemporary models. So, the traditional models has owed a lot from the economists, because these models draw a lot from the development economics and also consumer behavior from economics perspective. So, ideally the priority assumptions of the economic models pivot around the allocation of limited resources across unlimited needs and wants. Two of the key facets like macroeconomics and microeconomics have contributed in different ways to analyze the process of consumer decision making. So, even though these models has been criticized over being too simplistic, nonetheless, after several modifications over the decades, these are still the pioneering models that contribute a lot towards the development of contemporary theories. So, from here we can understand that the traditional models are of two kinds. A is the microeconomic model and B is the macroeconomic model. Microeconomic model is individual choice specific and macroeconomic model is where we are talking aggregate customers of the economy. So, we begin with the microeconomic models. The classical microeconomic approach propounded in the first quarter of the 19th century by Alfred Marshall, this principally focused on the type of goods, like whether you are talking about a normal good, necessary good or given good and prevailing price structure in the country. I will just tell, normal goods are usually like which follows the law of demand, like when the price goes up the demand falls, or when the price goes down the demand goes up. So, usually most of the products are like that. There are some kind of necessary product where the demand becomes very inelastic, like salt. Even if the price of salt goes up, people have to consume certain amount of salt. Even if the price of rice goes up, people have to consume certain amount of rice. So, this salt, rice, this kind of products are basically the necessary products where the demand is very much inelastic irrespective of the price. Now, the other one is the given good. Given good is like when the income goes up, the consumption of this when the price goes up, the consumption of these items also goes up. When price goes down, the consumption goes. Now, why this happens? I will just discuss like meat and potato. It was found in Europe that whenever the price of meat or price of potato used to go down, that time people used to buy less potato and saved that money to buy more meat. So, this kind of thing like potato is a given good in this case. So, these are three kinds of goods, and the underlying assumptions of the Marshallian models are as follows, that it is not possible to satisfy the consumers as they have unlimited needs and wants. Consumers are restrained by a budget line, that is a fixed monthly income or a fixed allocation of resource for consumption, and thereby they try to allocate all the available purchase budget in a way that maximizes their utility given a budget constraint. Now, consumers autonomously build up their own preference in absence of any external influence, and their preference pattern is consistent over time. Consumers have perfect knowledge about the utility of the product, that is, they are fully aware of the level of satisfaction they can derive from the use of the product. The law of diminishing marginal utility prevails, which means that the proportion of increase in utility gradually diminishes with the consumption of additional units of the product. I will explain this. Like you are consuming, say you are very thirsty, you drank a bottle of thumbs up. Now, again your thirst was not quenched, so you drank another bottle of thumbs up, but obviously the utility you have got from the first bottle of thumbs up would be much higher than you have got from the second bottle of thumbs up, because after consuming the first bottle your some thirst has been already quenched. Now, for the third bottle your utility level will further fall down, and so on and so forth. So, with a consumption of additional unit, the marginal utility of the product goes down. This is the assumption of Marshall, and Marshall assumes that price is the only determinant of purchase preference. Now, he also assumes that the customers are perfectly rational in a sense that given the individual's choice criteria, they will always act in a conscious and calculated way to maximize their utility. Now, based on these assumptions, the economists conclude that perfectly rational consumers choose the product bundle for which they perceive the cost benefit ratio to be maximum, which means that they have to maximize the utility given a budget constraint. For any particular item, the cost benefit to cost ratio can be measured as the ratio of marginal utility to price. Now, hence the consumer would try to realize a position where the following equation is valid for any n number of goods, like marginal utility of product 1 equal to marginal utility of product 2 to up to I mean not marginal, I mean this ratio, that is benefit to cost ratio, mu1 by p1 equal to mu2 by p2, mu3 by p3, all this has to be equal. So, this is what is the microeconomic model of Marshall, but here the problem with the microeconomic model or is oversimplification. First of all, you can see here it is said that consumers are always constrained by a budget line, but given these days the credit card and the EMI system, the consumer even buys more than their present income at times. So, this kind of thing has not been handled here. Secondly is the decisions are autonomous, that is also not always the case, because in that case you are actually ignoring the social variables and the exogenous variables in the picture. And then it is said that they have a perfect knowledge. In many of the times, like when I am going to buy a television set, I have go only maybe I am looking at the style, design, price and the clarity of picture. I may not be knowing the very nitty-gritty of the technical attribute of the product as such. And particularly when you talk about the bottom of the pyramid customers, they go by 2-3 cues to select as a select criteria for a product. So, in that case they have a perfect knowledge about the utility of the product is somewhat unrealistic assumption in today's world. And price is not the only determinant of purchase, there are so many other things, there could be esteem need, there could be safety need, there could be many other needs for which the customer is deciding. It may be the brand name itself, it may be the style, the design, the comfort of the product and many other things which acts as the determinant. So, that is how microeconomic models were criticized, and then came the macroeconomic perspectives. In his relative the macroeconomic perspectives, two major theories are there. One is the James Dusenberry's relative income hypothesis, another is Milton Friedman's permanent income hypothesis. So, James Dusenberry in 1949 he opined that people's consumption level are primarily governed by their peers and social group rather than their own absolute levels of income. Therefore, an individual's marginal propensity to consume is likely to change only when he moves in an upward or downward direction in his social class. Nonetheless, with an equal rise of income of all the groups in the society, the marginal propensity to consume is expected to change for any is not supposed to change for any groups, which means say a 5 group member in the society, if all of our income rises, maybe I cannot perceive the rise of income as such, and I may not change my way of living. But if in a group of 5 friends suddenly my income goes up and the others income are constant, so that time maybe I am thinking that I am better off, and then I may start consuming more and I may consume some of the luxury products and all. So, that is what is Dusenberry's relative income hypothesis. On the flip side, the permanent income hypothesis proposed by Milton Friedman centers around the notion that the consumption of a family, individual or social class depends on what they consider as their normal income. To do this, they try to retain a reasonably stable standard of living even though their incomes may vary considerably over a period of time. As a consequence, the change in income that people perceive as impertinent has modest effect on their consumption spending, which means this is the kind of buying behavior which I am thinking is consistent over a period of time, unless it is drastically changed income. Now, again macroeconomic theory also, if we go back and see the macroeconomic theory, this also talks about the may mostly focus on the income of the individual as a determinant of purchase decision. So, again income and your price, these are only some of the variables for choosing a product, but so far since we have studied the individual determinants and the group determinants of consumption or the environmental determinants of consumption, we are aware that there are so many other things, so many other factors, social and individual factors which governs the choice of the person. So, therefore, we find that these economic models this is slightly not explaining the psychological decision psychology aspect of the consumer decision making. So, that gap is addressed by the contemporary social scientists. And we talk here for the first model. First model was actually designed by Andreessen, but we are not designing that talking about that model because it is quite old. So, we start with the Nicosia model. Nicosia model, as you can see, is a 4 field model. So, we discuss field wise. One is the first subfield, where we are talking about the firm's attribute and how firms provide stimuli to the customer and how customers are exposed to the firm's communication here. So, these two, followed by we have subfield number 2, which talks about the consumer's individual attributes, his motivation, his attitudinal parameters, all this. Then it comes to the information search of the customers. So, this is again field 2, because subfield 1 and subfield 2, this is for field number 1. Field number 2 is a pre-action field, where information search and evaluation of alternatives goes on. Then that is driven by motivational parameter. We come to field number 3, which is action field, and then we come to purchase field, and then we reach to post field number 4, where we have consumption and post purchase behavior, which again forms customers attributes. We will just tell in details, slight details. Nicosia model in 1966 focuses on the buying decision, especially for a new product. It is a 4 field model, as I have said. First 3 models elucidate various decision making stage, which means this is the field number 1 constitutes of subfield 1 and subfield 2, field number 2 pre-action field, field number 3 is action field, which is decision and purchase. All this relates to the decision making steps, where the last stage is actually the post purchase stage. So, Nicosia has resorted to a detailed computer flow chart for this purpose. For ease of comprehension, all the mental situations of the consumer have been classified into various fields and subfields. Thereafter, all the elements of the model are connected through direct as well as feedback loops. Hence, the model stresses on the association between the firm and its prospective customers. The firm communicates with consumers through its stimuli in terms of all 4 P's, and the consumers respond to these messages by forming their attitude towards the product, brand, and finally purchase or reject it. A careful watch on the model may project that there are 2 basic entities in the market. One is the consumer, another is the marketer, or here one is the marketer, that is the firm, and another is the customer. So, they constitute 2 subfield in field 1. So, we talk about field 1 in details, like this is consumer's attitude based on firm's messages. So, this is the first field that deals with customers' initial attitude after being exposed to the firm's message and this is subdivided into 2 subfield, which I have said. The first subfield explains how the firm's marketing environment and communication effort are shaped by its attributes and traits given the existing competitive environment and feature of the target market. For example, Tanishq, they came with 18 karat gold and kind of very elegant designs and all this, mostly for the working class. When they tried to position it for the wedding jeweler, they came with a new set of ad and new set of design of the jewelry, and also the shops were also designed in that way. So, that is a kind of all this, like shops design, products design, promotional design, all these things are marketer driven stimuli, which is provided to the target market. Now, the second subfield is the customer's individual attitude, like their own experience about wedding jewelry, maybe in this case their own personality, what kind of wedding jewelry they like. They will like a platinum jewelry, they will, because they want to portray their, they have more of esteem need, and they are having more income also. So, they think that they will buy more platinum jewelry, or some people they may focus on the diamond jewelry. So, it depends. What is your experience, what is your personality, how do you perceive the marketer's communication? From the communication, do you think that it is a kind of very cheap product, or it should be very traditional? I may not want so much of traditional jewelry, I may want a little bit of match of modernism and traditionality in my jewelry, is something like that. So, these are the things is the customer's field. So, customer will filter the message which they have received from the marketer based on their own individual characteristics, and therefore, he develops his attitude towards the firm's product depending on the way how he interprets the firm's message. As he interprets, the Tanishq has now only become the wedding jeweler, or it is still the jewelry for the working woman, or it is only a Shubham collection for the festival thing. So, what is my perception? Is it change, and how do I perceive it? So, that depends on my understanding, my level of knowledge, my own experience and all this. Second is the search field and evaluation. This is the field number 2 here, which you can see. So, we come this is the second phase. The consumer begins to search for attributes of other firms' offerings and now compares them with the concerned firm's brand. At this phase, it is the task of the marketer to provide adequate information about the product, highlight their USPs, shape the customer's evaluative criteria and motivate them in favor of its brand through its promotional messages. Now, say there are Tanishq, there is PC Chandra, there are Senco and many other jewelry brands. So, once I form my idea that I want to buy a wedding jewelry and I want say I like a traditional kind of wedding jewelry and mainly that has to be a kind of Bengali or Tamilian kind of design. So, if Tanishq message passes through this filter and Tanishq is in my evoked set now, that I think okay, Tanishq could be one possible brand which I can choose. Similarly, I may choose I may like PC Chandra also, I may like Senco also. So, all these three is now still in my evoked set. Now, I will try to compare these three brands based on their design, style, price, making charges and many other things. So, this is and for that I will search more information. I can go to the shop and check, I can go to their website and check different kind of designs, or I can see the promotional things and somehow I will develop a certain kind of preference towards a brand, because I will start evaluating at this stage. After evaluation, in field number 3, I will just go back here where to see this one. Field number 3 is the action field, where you take the decision to purchase a particular product and then finally you purchase it. And then comes field number 4. In field number 4 in the model, as you have seen, is a feedback loop. So, in this feedback loop, finally the model interprets the post purchase feedback of the customer. The firm may use the sales data as the feedback and modify the brand's trait and promotional or distribution strategy if required, and the consumer is supposed to use his experience to develop notions about the firm. It is just like this. Here customer have a post, suppose I have bought a Tanishq jewelry and I feel that everybody is appreciating me after wearing this, and the way it used to look in the promotion, the way it used to look in the catalog, the polish and all this thing is lasting for a long time. So, I will have a good post purchase experience about it and form a positive attitude about the brand Tanishq. So, this is what perception formation, and sometimes if customer forms a negative perception, then the marketer can, from their feedback, from their sales team or from their shopkeepers, they will come to know that what are the different complaints customer are making. So, they can modify their product accordingly, okay? And then they will again communicate to the customer as per the requirement. So, we just critically evaluated in short that the worth of Nicosia model, however, rests on the integration of the insights about the non-action kind of variables present in the environment and the ways they prompt actions from the consumers, but it does not unveil the impact of the internal factors of the consumer and the ways they shape the consumer's attitude towards the product. Moreover, the Nicosia model overlooks the aspects of the customer's predisposition and perceptual bias, the two most crucial aspects of understanding and customer's expectation from a product or brand. Later on, Howard model has actually addressed this problem, and besides, this model has been severely criticized by the behavioral scientists as it is not empirically tested, it is only a theoretical model. And many of the variables which has been measured like attitude, motivation and all, the exactly measurement variables has not been listed and tested. So, the flow chart, although the flow chart approach of the model is very organized and structured, and but the flip side of it is that if we look at the model, it is always one way. So, it shows that how information search is impacting on the evaluation of alternatives here, if you see and how attitudinal parameters are here, customers attitudinal parameter impacts the information search and evaluation of alternatives, and then based on the motivational parameter he is taking a decision, but the reverse has not been identified, like depending on the motivational parameter also the information search may be lengthy or it may be shortened, and your attitudinal motivational parameter also has some implication on the attitudinal parameter and the customer's individual attributes and traits. So, this reverse side is not been analyzed actually in this model. So, therefore, it's nowadays we say that its implication this way is slightly limited. So, we stop here in this module, and in the next module we will continue with the Howard-Shed model of consumer decision making. Thank you.